We often believe that great people are born different, that they carry within them a special kind of light that ordinary people will never have. But the truth is, most of the greatest people in this world were once abandoned, once wounded, once doubted, and once turned away by life itself. Steve Jobs was one of them. Tonight, here at the Story Porch, we are not here to talk about Apple, not about the iPhone, but about the story of a boy who was abandoned at birth and nearly lost himself before he changed the world. Steve Jobs was born in 1955, and the moment he entered this world, he was abandoned by his biological parents. Not because of poverty, not because of war, but because he was considered a mistake. A poor couple adopted him. His adoptive father was a mechanic. His adoptive mother was a bookkeeper. They were not rich, but they loved Steve with everything they had. Still, deep inside his heart, Steve carried a question that never had an answer. Was I abandoned because I wasn't good enough? That question would follow him for the rest of his life. He was not a top student. He hated structure. He challenged authority. He was only drawn to two things: electronics and freedom. No one in that neighborhood could have imagined that this skinny, rebellious boy would one day change how the world listens to music, makes calls, works, and lives. Steve Jobs met Steve Wozniak. One was a dreamer, the other, a true engineering genius. Two very different souls, meeting inside a small garage. No capital, no reputation. No one believed in them, but they believed in each other. They built their first computer by hand. It was not perfect, but it was the beginning of a revolution. Apple was not born in a boardroom, but in dust, sweat, and fragile dreams. Steve Jobs was not rich back then, but he had one unshakable belief: people deserve beautifully made products. Apple grew faster than anyone could explain, and by the age of 25, Steve Jobs became a millionaire. The boy who was once abandoned now stood on the very peak many dream of. But that peak was not the destination. It was the beginning of the most painful fall of his life. Apple grew bigger. Investors arrived. Shareholders took over. And the business world began to fear a Steve Jobs who was too emotional, too extreme, too different. He was pushed out of major decisions, isolated, and then the very company he created removed him from leadership. A 30-year-old man, famous, wealthy, and completely broken inside. Steve Jobs once said, "It felt like I had been punched in the chest." He didn't just lose a job, he lost his identity, his life's creation, and his belief in himself. He sank into depression, drifted without direction, without purpose. And for the first time in his life, he faced his deepest fear. If I am no longer Apple, then who am I? Steve Jobs did not disappear. He started again from zero. He founded a new company, Next, a financial failure. He bought Pixar and was mocked by Hollywood. No one saw him as a genius anymore, only a stubborn man living in the past. But it was in those years of failure that Steve Jobs learned what he never had before: humility, patience, and a deep understanding of people. When Pixar finally succeeded with Toy Story, when Next began to earn respect, Apple, now on the edge of bankruptcy, came back for him. The door they once slammed shut was now opened by their own hands. Steve Jobs returned to Apple not as a conqueror, but as a man who had died once and been reborn. He cut 70% of the products, focused on quality, on emotion, on experience. iMac, then iPod, then iPhone, then iPad. He didn't sell technology, he sold a better way to live. The boy once abandoned became a global symbol of creativity and daring. But life did not grow gentler with him. Steve Jobs was diagnosed with cancer. A silent battle, brutal, endless, and he understood his time was running out. In his final famous speech, Steve Jobs said, "Death is life's greatest invention. It clears out the old to make room for the new." The man who feared abandonment his entire life finally learned how to let go. He passed away in 2011, carrying no iPhone with him, no Apple, no fame. He left behind only what truly matters: the courage to be different, the courage to fail, and the courage to live your own life. Maybe you were not born with a gift in your hands. Maybe you were abandoned, looked down upon, broken by failure. But if Steve Jobs teaches us one thing, it is this: you are not defined by where you came from. You are not trapped by your failures, and you were not born to live someone else's life. You were born to live your own. Thank you for sitting with us on the Story Porch tonight. And if this story touched your heart, remember this: you have not lost, you have only just begun.